Well, good evening, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon. We have an international group. Some of you are up early and some of you are up late, and it'll be worth it. My name is Herb. I'm an alcoholic. This Zoom call, this workshop is being recorded. I'm going to invite you to join me in the set-aside prayer here. God, please set aside everything that I think I know about myself, my brokenness, my spiritual path in you, for an open mind and a new experience with myself, my brokenness, my spiritual path, and especially you. Please join me in the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Admitted we were powerless over, fill in the blank. The big book says alcohol, of course. That's the first half of the first step. But this workshop is open to anybody who has any addiction or no addiction at all. I was struck tonight by praying consciously that set-aside prayer where it talks about our brokenness. Each one of you needs to identify the addiction du jour, if it's an issue, or at least your historical relationship with your addiction. I hope it's really clear now because we've spent a lot of time unpacking the big book, specifically, literally, fundamentally, as well as interpreting the big book, using dictionaries and my knowledge in other areas and my experience in the overall process to expand, hopefully to enlarge your understanding of some of the words in the big book. Some of the words that are applied to addiction, alcohol, substance process. In this second component of the first half of the first step, we looked at the body, which is the first half of the first half of the first step. There's a dash which separates alcohol, the addiction, from unmanageability, I believe, the human condition. It's not the way it's worded in the big book. And we'll see that next week as we begin looking at assignment 5. Right here at the beginning and maybe at the end, I'll remind you that's where we're going next week, Tuesday. I'll do a presentation on assignment number 5. I'm going to divide it up into 2 pieces because it's very dense in the big book as I will be unpacking it. If you pay attention to items in assignment 5, items 1, 2, and 3, item 1 being the definitions, item 2 referencing pages 44 and 45. Yeah, page and a half, that's all, but read it and highlight it. It's a wonderful revelation of an introduction to a whole new understanding of unmanageability. And then on page 52, we do skip around a bit. on page 52, that second paragraph, I call the bedevilment paragraph because that word's in there. It's really important for you to look that word up and at least have an initial understanding as to what your dictionary says it is. The doctor's opinion talked about a body and a mind problem. And he emphasized, Dr. Silkworth, the body problem, the allergy, the craving, the phenomena. Once you start, you cannot stop. Although he alluded to the mind, he didn't spend any time on it, the doctor's opinion. So Bill did. He picked it up, pages 23 to 43, as we looked at the mind problem. Bill doesn't talk much about the body problem, but he talks a lot about the mind problem. We've looked at those pages in 2 assignments, and I've unpacked them, looking at obsession and delusion and insanity. I hope you have a new understanding, maybe a broader, deeper understanding of those words from the big book. Knowledge is really important, but it's not critical. As critical, I should say, as experience. So I hope you paid attention to Jim's story and Fred's story to see how they're the same and yet they're different. They illustrate, once I've stopped, I cannot stay stopped. Jim, who had a little consciousness but overrode it. Fred had no consciousness at all. In fact, he used the phrase, which I emphasized a lot, strange mental blank spot. And in the end of Jim's story on page 37, Bill illustrates his approach, his understanding, his intention with regard to the word insanity. Very important here in step 1, but critical for step 2. And he concludes, no effective mental defense. Knowledge and self-knowledge will not protect you. That's the right word. Knowledge, self-knowledge, and anything that you can do with your human effort or any other person's human effort. This is the whole point of the big book. And step 1, powerless, no choice. If there's anything that you can do, think or feel, or access in terms of human power, then you're not powerless. And in order to really connect to that, it really does require an experience, not just the knowledge and not just an awareness of my experience or how I articulate it or how you feel about somebody else's experience. That's not your experience. Your experience, and that's the whole purpose of the mind worksheet, is to prompt you to have your experience. What is your absolutely historical journey and practical experience on a very specific basis as to when you stopped, whether it was a day or a week or a month or a year or 10 years, you stopped intentionally, meaning for good conscious reason, and you started again. And you probably did that more than once. Prior to coming into a 12-step program or after you came into a 12-step program, both need to be looked at. I had to look at prior to coming into a 12-step program because prior to coming in a 12-step program, I was given the gift of freedom from alcohol. I can't explain it. I mean, in any human understandable terms, it's really mysterious. I was willing to stop drinking to support my wife's recovery, and I never had an inclination to drink again. And I didn't do anything. Before I stopped drinking or after I stopped drinking, before I came to AA, I didn't do anything. I didn't come to AA for 2 more months after I stopped drinking. And yet I didn't have any inclination to drink again. It's just a gift. I'm humbled by it, thankful for it. But I can't explain it other than using the term grace and gift, which are kind of lame, actually, because they don't really help anybody who has really struggled. It's kind of like, yeah, right. What are you, special? No, I'm not actually, not at all, not one bit special. But some of you have had a similar experience of freedom. Maybe when it was the first day you walked into a 12-step room. I've heard that enough times that I believe it's regular and frequent. Not that they did anything other than they showed up at a 12-step meeting of some kind, whatever your addiction is. So the real key is, as I've emphasized, and tonight we're going to spend all the time, I'm going to stop talking here in a minute, but I wanted to sort of set the tone and the context. Because tonight I want you to share about your experience. It's wonderful to talk about obsession and delusion and insanity and the knowledge and the understanding. And yeah, that's nice. But let's try to really focus on what is your experience, personal experience, awareness of that 2 to 5 minutes just before you relapsed after a period of abstinence. What were you thinking? What were you conscious of? What were you feeling? What were you aware of? Or not? What happens after you take the drink is irrelevant. So please don't go there. It's just story, and I will stop you. Because it's inevitable what will happen after you have or engage in your addiction. It's inevitable. You'll lose control. Maybe not that time, but certainly within a short time frame afterwards. So the real key here is, what was going on in my awareness? This is about the mind. Within that first few minutes, before you picked up the drink, before you picked up the cupcake, before you engaged in that relationship, before you placed the bet, before you press the button, whatever it is.
Weed is my marijuana is my drug of choice, even though I am an alcoholic. And that's what brought me to my knees. And I would be, as soon as I made the decision to smoke, all day long, I'd be like, okay, I'm not going to smoke. I'm not going to smoke. I'm not going to smoke. As soon as I'm driving home, I'd be like, I need to get some weed. And as soon as I made that decision, there was no.
But see, you're saying words that and it may just be the words, and it may I don't want to get too much into the semantics, but you're saying I made a decision and then I lost control. My experience is that you don't make a decision. So I want you to talk to me about the consciousness in abstinence. Did you have a period of 24 hours of freedom from smoking?
Unfortunately, I can't really remember, but they're all kind of the same thing, where things are going really, really well, and I suddenly just have this whimsical thought that, oh, it would be great to get high.
All right, but that's what I want to know about, the whimsical thought. What was going on just before you had the whimsical thought, and how much consciousness did you have around the whimsical thought? That's exactly the right word.
I think I had consciousness of it, but there's a little voice inside of me that says, hey, just go ahead and do it.
Yeah,
we'll deal with it later.
No, that's it right there. That's right. It's easily overridden. A little consciousness, but the tidal wave comes and sweeps it away.
Yeah.
Yeah. But see, challenge yourself. You said, I made a decision. Really? Did you actually really make a free decision?
Maybe I wasn't being honest with myself.
Well, Exactly. And in my case, and I'm not sure I've shared it, is that trying to come to this, my step guide, when I'm 7 years sober, worked with me just like this, because I couldn't see it. I couldn't get it. I couldn't experience it. Oh, I could mouth the definitions and I could give generalities, but then finally, the third time we were together, after two prior different times of 2 hours apiece, going through the Jim story and Fred's story and talking like this with me, he said, well, tell me about Sunday. Well, Sunday night, my wife and I were drinking, and we said it's interfering with our lives. So let's not drink Monday through Friday. We won't even drink Friday night because we want to protect the weekend. All right. And because she had a drinking problem too. And so we made the pact. Monday, when I came home, she was drinking. So hell, deal's off. I drank. And Monday night, we made that decision. Tuesday, the pact's on. Well, Tuesday night, I didn't come home because I was drinking. So she drank. Wednesday morning, when we're having our coffee together, we said, pact's back on. Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, we're not going to drink. Do you hear the rhythm of this? We made a decision not to drink. Then we made a decision to drink. And finally, he asked me this question, Herb, were you making a decision on Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, and Friday night? Or were you hijacked by a thought that, oh, well, she's drinking, or, oh, well, I'm with my boss, or, oh, well, I'll start tomorrow, or, oh, well, it'll be different. I've been making too big a deal out of it.
Well, and that's why that word hijack is so perfect.
It is.
Because I think both are true. It's either I'm saying that I'm going to stop, knowing that I'm lying, knowing full well in my mind that it's not going to happen, or I'm hijacked by a thought. I'd prefer to think that I was hijacked.
First of all, I think it's a healthier thought because it's out of your control. There's when you're hijacked, there's no control. It's like it took possession of me without my permission and without my consciousness. And when that third night, when he finally had me be that specific and spend the time, it was painful to be so redundant as well as so meticulous about but all of a sudden it exploded in me. I'm not making a choice at all. I'm being overwhelmed by something in me that I can't control, even with any thought or willpower on my own. And for the next 48 hours, I lived with a sense of anxiety and doom. 7 years sober. That's what I mean. I'm not saying that everybody has to have that profound, dramatic experience, but that's when I got the connection that willpower is a decision. And there was no decision here like you talk about using the word hijack.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if you would call that honesty with self, or at least awareness, I would say that I was aware of myself, but I would lie to every other person in my life, even the people I used with.
What power did the awareness have?
None at that point, because it wasn't connected to source, to a higher power.
Well, I mean, that's your explanation now, but looking back on it, I mean, it wasn't
strong enough.
An awareness was just an awareness, and it was easily washed away.
Yep.
Yeah. Excellent.
Well, I do know, like, when the pandemic started, one of the things, so I'm in Debtors Anonymous. It's one of my programs.
Okay.
And early on in program, I realized where I was compulsively debting was on expensive business workshops. So I took an abstinence of that. And beginning of the pandemic, I attended a multitude of these free things that are just enrollment experiences to buy an expensive program.
prior to the pandemic, did you have the intention of not enrolling in these courses?
I would say, yeah, I went into a fear kind of blackout is
All
what
right,
I'm
tell me
thinking.
about the first enrollment. You have abstained from the enrollment. You're in Debtors Anonymous. This is one of the trigger points for you. You've made a decision. You've been abstinent from enrolling in one of these events, and you enrolled in it. I want to know about your consciousness prior to enrolling.
Well, I didn't end up enrolling as in paying, but I enrolled in a number of the freebies and obsessed about whether I would sign up for something.
Wait, you're already in your rationalization and denial.
I was trying to clarify that
Wait. Does it matter that it's free?
I don't think so.
I don't either. I don't either. See, because that's the trigger. Oh, it's free, she said. And she engaged in some behavior that she said she wasn't going to continue. Now, it didn't cost you any money. There's where I don't know whether that's the trigger point or not. But you engaged in a behavior that you said that you weren't going to do. Now, okay, but let's just assume that was legitimate because it was free, and therefore you were just taking advantage of it, certainly given the circumstances of the pandemic. Tell me then, did you then enroll in something that cost you money?
I did not.
Oh, well then what's the problem?
The level of unmanageability and obsessive consumption of this free one, and then maybe it's the other group, and maybe it's the other group.
All right. So then the free one is an issue because it's not about the money, it's about the compulsivity of joining the events. I see that. Do you?
Yeah. Like it's a scramble to find the solution.
Did you know that then at the time the pandemic hit and about registering in these events? Did you know that it set up a compulsion, or was that something you discovered at that?
It's something that I was aware of and hadn't engaged in it for a number of years.
Perfect. All right.
And then I think that's, in terms of that little time, like, why did I say yes, like that I could drink this time? I think I was in a frozen kind of panic that I wasn't even aware of like, holy shit.
All right.
But my income is now, I don't know where it's going to come from. I better figure out a solution. This is it. This kind of frenzy.
Yeah, I'm on it, but I'm back to the very first registration of the very first free one. What were you thinking and aware of and conscious of when you enrolled in that? You began to describe it just now, I think, with your fear thing.
Well, the first thought that just came to mind was that someone else has a solution that I don't have access to, and I need to engage with them.
Sounds very rational. Did any thought come into your mind or awareness that in fact you had a history of compulsivity with regard to these kind of registrations and quote, I need to be careful, so I'll manage it better this time?
Yes, and what really just occurred to me is that I don't want to admit that I'm powerless over them, over that.
Well, what was your awareness of your history at the time that you enrolled in this very first free event?
I have enrolled without having saved ups for them, or so sometimes they've been compulsive purchases, not really knowing like
So you're saying, I think, to me that you didn't have much awareness of your history at the time you were rolling in this. It was the beginning of a pandemic. You're filled with fear, and this is offered for free. And you need to have alternatives, and you never even thought about the potential danger of it.
No, I did consider the potential danger of it.
Oh, tell us about that. Tell us about that consideration.
I mean, that comes with its own ball of unmanageability, I must say.
Lose the word. It's not about unmanageability. Lose it. We're talking about the mental problem here. We're not talking about the willpower problem.
Oh, I see the difference. Okay. All right. Fair enough. So that I go into those knowing they're going to upsell something pricey. A fear and a shame that's already in place, and concern, well, what if I want that thing? And then I feel shame that I I can't afford it, but I don't even ask myself a question of like how I could afford it.
Actually.
And then there's the complexity of like, well, will I get my money's worth? And I actually have gotten my money's, what I feel like is if.
Okay, so rather than that, okay, so let me just ask another question.
Sure.
Had you ever had to make these kinds of discernments previously where they ended up badly for you? Now, I don't know why you're hesitating, because it was you that told me that you had a history of compulsivity. So how can you hesitate now when I ask that very simple question, if you ever had a history of compulsivity? I didn't make that up. You told me that was your story.
You just said if it ended badly.
Well, if it's compulsive, and you don't like it, I interpret that as badly. If it's just intense and it ended up well every time, then what's the issue? Why are we talking? It's either a problem or it's not a problem. You're either behaving in a way that you don't want to behave, or you're not. I mean, you can't have it both ways. So
when I raised my hand, it was to acknowledge that fear moment.
Yeah.
That I don't even realize that fear is driving me.
Exactly.
And I think I'm being I'm being a responsible business person.
Yep.
And the discernment flies out the window.
When do you realize that? That it was fear-driven and an unhealthy choice on your part?
Just today, when I was doing my step work with my sponsor, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is.
Got it.
This is fear.
Yeah. All right.
That's packed in here. And it's like a lack of self-awareness what's feeling.
Now I think we've cracked it open from my standpoint. That's an experience, you see. That you were driven by fear that you weren't aware of, making decisions that were contrary to the decisions that you had made previously. That's the whole point. Yeah.
And I imagine that because the fear is such a driver that I'm not even aware of, then that's probably why there's such a serious dose of shame and indecision that comes up. That
it
just
might
is
be.
tormenting.
You'll explore that more deeply when we get into step 4 and actually focus on the fear problem and the source of the fears. And I'll take you very deep. The way I express it is that the work that the big book presents us and the way I've experienced it penetrates the unconscious So we're able to actually see underneath the conscious, the unconscious motivations and drivers that are creating our problems in our life, like you have just now experienced.
Yeah, I have a sense that there's a panic of like, there's not going to be enough for me.
Right. Yep. All right. Well, thanks for working and not retreating. You stayed right there. I'm pretty confident it was pretty much of a struggle for you to do that, but you did a great job of just staying right there and working with it. So thanks very much.
So the problem I'm struggling with now is actually nicotine.
Okay.
It's been a couple of years, and I used to smoke 25 years ago, and I never even considered it. And then I picked it up 2 years ago when I was in trauma with this relationship that I was in.
All right.
And you know, it's something that I can exert enough willpower to sort of stop doing for a while, but then
wait, let's get really specific now. All right. So nicotine is an issue. You have a compulsivity with regard to whatever it is you're smoking. I'm assuming it's smoking, is it?
it's vaping, actually.
Yeah, vaping. All right. In the last 3 months, have you had any consecutive time with freedom from nicotine?
Yes, I have.
Well, tell me about it.
Well, I've been free of it for 7 days now.
There, but see, you're still free right now. I want to know when you relapsed after freedom.
Right. It was right before that.
Well, tell me, how many days did you have?
Just probably 2.
Wonderful. 3, you had 2 or 3 days of freedom, and you're intentionally trying to not use a vape. Are you in a Nicotine Anonymous?
Actually, I just discovered Nicotine Anonymous. So
the answer is no. So you're trying to do it on your own, then trying to deal with your nicotine. No. I don't want vagaries. I don't want story. I want you to answer my questions specifically. Listen to my questions. You had 2 or 3 days. You had 2 or 3 days of freedom from nicotine. You're doing this on your own without any program or support.
Without any program or support, yes. Except
except
God. Except I have God.
And you, because you're in another 12-step program?
No, I'm not. This is all I'm doing, but I have God in my life in a very
How do you know that? Wait. How do you know that?
Well, I became a Christian about 30 years ago. So
So you have a spiritual practice.
Oh, I have a huge spirit. I went to seminary, so I have a degree in theology.
I went to seminary too. I came out as agnostic. So there you go.
Yeah. No, and I mean
No. I don't want to hear the story. I want to know now. You had 3 days, let's assume, of abstinence from nicotine, and you relapsed. Yeah. What were you thinking or feeling or aware of just before you vaped?
Yeah. Well, I was doing this homework and it was so helpful to answer this question. I was excited about something and I wanted to perpetuate that excitement.
Yeah.
And so I wanted that high.
All right.
I wanted to reward myself. I wanted to treat myself.
Yep.
I wanted to, feed self.
Yep. And just before you vaped, what were you aware of in terms of the vaping?
I was thinking how great this is going to be.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it, and I'm going to feel really good. And it's and I realized that it's all a lie, right? I'm believing this lie.
But you didn't realize it. I
didn't realize it.
You stayed in the lie. You see,
stayed in the lie.
You were hijacked by the obsession, the thought that is a lie, that I'm celebrating and this will be a really good treat. And had you ever had that thought in a prior relapse?
Every time.
And so you couldn't see the lie.
And it's just going to be this time. I'll stop later. I can do what I want.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
I don't care.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one, too. Oh,
I'll
I don't
worry
care.
about it later.
Yep.
And I'll worry about it later. And you know, when I was doing the exercise, the last thing I came up with when I was really thinking about this was I don't have much value anyway.
Wow. All right. Yep. All right. Yep. Yep.
So maybe it'll kill me. You know, I'm going to die anyway.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
like,
Yep.
honestly, that's.
No,
and-
you've given a wonderful concrete litany of the kinds of thoughts and feelings that every one of us has. That's right. That's a great summary. Yeah. But how much control did you have over those thoughts or those feelings?
Personally, absolutely zero.
Yeah. I mean, the answer is I vaped, and I have a history of vaping.
Right.
After I lie to myself this way, not knowing that I'm lying to myself, even
Right.
after I do it, not remembering that I lied to myself.
Yeah, my only way to stay free is to stay walking with God. When I veer from that at all,
Yep.
in my body, and
Yep.
I'm in trouble.
Yeah. Well, and part of the moving parts that I see in a 12-step program that are the benefit are that we have an accountability partner, and we have a fellowship that supports us, and we have a definite methodology, the path to walk. And those three things are able to keep us protected, not conscious. I almost said that. Kept us conscious. No, it creates a spiritual shield so that we're protected from ourselves.
Absolutely. It's a discipline.
I don't use the word discipline. Yeah, because it's not a discipline.
Well, I'm thinking for me, it's like a spiritual discipline.
Depends on what you mean by that. Yeah, it's a gift that I'm given of a neutral. Bill uses the word neutrality. Yeah. You can hear, of course, how I'm struggling to keep everybody in a channel to talk specifically about their specific experience rather than to dress it with the context and the story. So do the best you can, but I will continue to use my cattle prod.
Okay, go ahead. I'm open to it. I am a compulsive overeater, and I had about 2.5 years of abstinence. I had been out of touch with my sponsor for 3 days because I was at a camp, a dance camp, and I was driving home from it, and I was on the freeway. I knew I had an hour and a half to get home, and I had a sudden realization that I've been on my own for 3 days, and I can stop by the 7-Eleven and my sponsor will never know.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that that was a dangerous thought, but I felt almost like I was in a trance. I felt like I didn't have hardly any consciousness. Like I probably had 3% consciousness, and the rest was I was in a trance.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking, how do I pull out of this trance? And I just pulled right into the 7-Eleven, and I was like a robot. And I went in and I picked up this huge bag of a snack thing that I used to eat, several times a week and put on 80 pounds and everything, which I'm keeping off, thank God.
Yeah.
But it was, I remember having thoughts, but none of them could control my behavior.
That's the kind of clarity and the detail and the moment, and you used the term 3%, and who cares whether it was even 30% or 1%, right. But you had some consciousness,
because I could drive
and
the car.
You were observing the consciousness, and still being hijacked. I'm going to use the term again, by the obsession.
Yeah, it was weird. Very weird.
It's how much consciousness or how much control did you have over that event?
None. I felt like I was possessed by an alien.
Yeah.
And I was way in the back seat watching this body walk into the set, and I went, I can't. stop.
And you actually really didn't want to, but you were observing a little bit of resistance, but it wasn't, there was no tension in that resistance.
No,
Yeah, that's
the
it.
trance was
I like the trance word.
pleasurable, almost as if it's almost as if it anticipate, or it gave me a pre-experience of the relief I would eventually get in the food, which
Yeah,
Mhm,
that's it.
mhm.
Yeah. Had
Yeah.
you ever in your past, prior to your, I think you said 2.5 years of abstinence, prior to that 2.5 years of abstinence, did you ever have that kind of thought and feeling and before
Sure.
and relapse, and none of that came to you as, oh, this is old behavior?
No, I knew it was old behavior, but I still couldn't.
Oh,
I still had
see,
no. I went, oh,
uh,
here I go.
oh,
Here I go.
I've seen this story
I've
before.
seen this before, and all of a sudden, it was as if I had no control over my own car.
That's even more powerful.
It's
Yeah.
it's freaky.
Yeah, actually.
I've been in OA for over
Yeah.
39 years,
Yeah.
and this has been a big deal. A big.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's it gave me this sense that there's a guillotine hanging over my head on a trip trigger, and I do not have any control as to when it's going to drop, but it could drop without any warning at all. That was for 48 hours. I had this overriding sense of doom and hopelessness. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That could happen at any time.
If I'm not protected.
Yes.
If I'm not protected. And that's the whole point of having a connection with power other than ourselves.
And would you say that protective shield you talked about,
Yeah.
it is cannot be understood. It's simply given when we follow instructions.
It's given as a gift, and not because we follow instructions, but there's something about the preconditions of it that when you finish 9, Bill can say with absolute certainty, we are placed in a position of neutrality. Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah. And we can't really talk about it in terms that make any sense.
Okay. I appreciate that. It's a mystery. Yeah. It's a beautiful mystery.
Great concrete example. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I quit drinking. I made a decision to quit. I don't know what happened. I had no more cravings. They just vanished. Got in the program, never drank again, 30 years. Yep. Smoking, I struggled with, but eventually I made a decision and I stopped. Yep. I don't know. Is this higher power, or was I just able to make a decision?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah. Great questions, by the way. And there's no real answer. You know, we could make up shit, but there's no real answer. Go ahead.
Okay, so now with the food, I did have some abstinence, but okay, it's not just food, it's also my behavior, my inability to keep my word to myself. I keep saying, I'm going to exercise, I'm going to walk, I'm going to eat my greens, I'm going to make my salad, and then I don't do it, you know, and I think, why am I not doing it?
Yeah, and part of that is going to be a great question and answer dialogue in unmanageability, but stay with the food, because that's where you indicated that there's probably some parallel addiction vocabulary.
Well, that's true.
Well, no, yeah, well, that's what you said. I'm just repeating what you said, and I want you to focus now on an addiction. And you said food, so that's a pretty straightforward one. Are you in a 12-step program for a food addiction?
No, not right now.
Okay, then you're attempting to manage your food on your own, kind of like with a proper diet or something, right?
Well, I'm trying to get the willingness to go back to the food program.
Oh, you've been in one, so you know about it.
I know about it.
Did you have any success in it?
Yes, I had 4 months.
You had 4 months. Tell me about the end of that 4 months. What happened, please?
Christmas came along.
Tell me about it. No.
Came along, and
no, I want to know about what day was it? Was it Christmas Day or the day before?
Well, it might have started at Thanksgiving. I just,
So now it's not Christmas, it's Thanksgiving. Tell me about Thanksgiving. Was it Thanksgiving Day or the day before?
it was probably like a couple days before
All
leading.
right, 2 days before Thanksgiving. Let's assume it's Tuesday. You're looking forward to Thanksgiving. You have, wait. You have four, because you obviously haven't thought it out. I'm going to help you think it out for you and for everybody else. On Tuesday before Thanksgiving, you are 4 months abstinent in a 12-step program. How did that feel?
Well, it felt good in a way because I was losing weight and I was off sugar, which I have an autoimmune disease. I need to be off sugar and flour. That felt good, but I didn't like the fact that it's like, am I never going to be able to eat what I want to eat?
Yeah. The big book suggests that we have no lurking notion that we will be like other people. No lurking notion. You had a lurking notion. You wanted to be normal.
Yeah, I have a lurk.
Already the plot thickens. Well, you're 4 months abstinent. You're happy about it. Biologically, it sounds like it's even a healthy thing for you that you're very conscious of. So tell me about the relapse on Tuesday or Wednesday before Thanksgiving. What happened?
I started fantasizing and thinking about how great it is and fun it is to eat whatever I want.
Yes, of course. And
so the more I thought about it, the more I knew it was going to happen. And then I just said, I'll wait until after the holidays and I'll start up again.
right. And you called your sponsor to talk about all of that.
Yeah.
No,
well,
you didn't. No, you didn't. No. She even hesitated. She wanted so much to tell me a lie.
or just forget. I don't remember. I mean,
Yeah.
anyway, I have a really nice sponsor. She's always got her door open when I'm willing to come back.
Right.
I'm also, okay, the food is a good thing because it really is an addiction. I hear the stinking thinking. I know I think these negative thoughts, and then I just have these compulsions like that woman said. I recently just went to 7-Eleven. I went to get gas and I ran in and I got these little donuts. And then I ate one and it tasted like shit. So I threw them out.
Oh,
I'm not wasting my
calories. Right.
Anyway, but I couldn't believe I was doing that. And
Yeah.
I wanted Twinkies. I haven't had Twinkies in years, but I'm like a mad woman. I just
Yeah.
want what I can't have.
All right. So what kind of thinking are you engaged in when you bought the donuts just recently?
Well, I can tell you one of the things that's happening to me is that I don't want to feel powerless. I don't want to feel powerless.
Okay. All right. Good. Resist as long as you can.
That does not sound like a good idea from.
Well, it's not a good idea, but you're going to have to resist as long as you can. I wonder what defeat and surrender really mean. I wonder what doom and hopeless really mean.
Yeah, that seems like a paradox because I feel.
No, it's not a paradox. It's a logical conclusion. It's not a paradox. There's no mystery here.
Well, I feel hopeless.
Well, yes, but you are hopeless. And excuse me, you are powerless, but you don't feel hopeless.
Okay.
You still hope that there's going to be a formula here. Once you get the right combination of things, you're going to be normal. There's a great line in the book about that I use as a leverage to talk about the cucumber and the pickle. You've probably heard me talk about that. Do you know about the cucumber and the pickle?
Tell me again.
What happens to a cucumber when you put it in a quart of brine for a week?
Yeah, it turns into a pickle.
How long after you take the pickle out of the brine does it restore to becoming a cucumber?
Okay, I hate that story, but
You're a cucumber, and you don't have to like it. As long as you resist it, then you'll continue to do the behavior that creates you to be a pickle.
okay, I'm really getting that. But I still have the question about my behavior and my lack of discipline.
Yeah, we'll look at that over the next 2 weeks. We'll be looking at that in another different, from a different perspective. So kind of like take a deep breath and try to incorporate, internalize what you've just been talking about and make it real for yourself. Because I don't think it's real for you yet.
Well, believe me, you just chipped a little piece of something on.
Great. Well, I was using a pretty big hammer. Thanks very much. Have you had a period of abstinence?
For my very first year, 16 years ago, yes. And after that, it's been on and off. But I've had periods of abstinence. I just don't count them. And just recently, my sponsor wants me to be accountable. And I'm on day 8 now. But I'm going to talk about previous times.
Please do.
Okay.
Within the last year.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. St. Patrick's Day.
All right.
Went out. Looking back, I can see that thinking about the food, especially the fries, is a red flag. I mean, I start to
wait, before we hear all of the story,
Okay.
and I do want to hear some of it, but so on prior to St. Patrick's Day, how much time did you have abstinent?
You're gonna ask me, and I don't know, but
Well, give me a number.
Okay, I'll say 2 weeks. I'll just say.
All right, great. 2 weeks of abstinence. You're in a 12-step program. It's very meaningful to you, and you coming to St. Patrick's Day. And how did you, what happened that you relapsed?
I can't believe I tried an appetizer. I mean, I do not eat appetizers.
Well, apparently you do. So tell me about your thoughts before you had an appetizer.
I have to say, I just saw it and I took it. It wasn't.
There's no thought at all. You don't even eat appetizers, and yet you went for that one with no thought at all. After 2 weeks of abstinence in a 12-step program, a commitment to abstinence, you don't eat hors d'oeuvres, and you went and picked one up without any thought at all.
Yes.
All right, that's it.
Okay, and then
then what happened though when you picked up that and ate it?
It wasn't any good.
No, I don't care about that. What happened?
Well, immediately I feel like shit. I mean, immediately
Then what?
Well, then I sort of made all these other justifications and rationalizations about the vegetables that had all the stuff on it, and I thought, well, I have to, I'm supposed to eat vegetables, and I ate a lot. I eat more than I should.
So you pulled the trigger without any premeditation at all. You're Fred's story right there, right?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, there wasn't any.
You ate something that you didn't even want or like, but it set you up as the trigger point.
And I was stuffed, and I said, I won't do this again. And then 3 days later, I went to another restaurant with family.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to be so good. I ordered the protein, I ordered the starch, and I ordered the vegetables. And then this sizzling platter of chicken came, and somebody in the family said, "You're not going to eat all of that, are you?" And all of a sudden I thought, gee, there's not much chicken on those bones. And I get into all kinds of rationalization.
Yeah.
And I also get into.
But now you're being hijacked. You see, you were hijacked at the St. Patty's Day thing. And then there's just a continuation of that. Somehow you really lost whatever traction that you had, right?
Well, yeah, that was the beginning. That was the trip,
Yeah.
The tripping, so to speak. But what I really got into was that it's just my rebellion and my rebellious and my defiant nature just came out, and I thought it was like, don't you tell me what to do.
Yeah. But see, here you're talking about a rationalization. Yes. That I was angry, I was rebellious, I still had a power of decision. Yet, no. When you took up that appetizer without any pre-consciousness, premeditation, all right, the trigger was pulled and you're condemned. There's nothing that you can do. It's not about your being rebellious. That's just you protecting your ego.
Okay, true, I'm sure. Yeah. And there's one more thing that this happened separate from these two occasions. And that is I was really upset about something. I don't remember exactly what, but I was really, something happened. I was really upset. And I think, here goes, I thought I made a decision that the only thing that was going to help me was to go to the store and buy this certain thing.
Yeah.
And I
Yep.
went to the store and I bought it and I thought, nuts is a binge food for me. I do not buy nuts. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I bought them and I thought, well, they're in the shell and all the rationalization was in the
Well,
shell.
all you're doing is reinforcing the original story. All right. And you're giving different reasons why you relapsed, because you so much want to say, if I didn't have the disturbance, if I didn't have the tension, if I didn't have the obnoxious personality, then I'd be okay. No, it's not true. You're screwed.
Oh shit.
Yeah, that's the really appropriate response. That is correct.
See, and I think that I knowingly, I think I made a decision and knowingly bought this binge food.
Do you still think that way based on our dialogue?
Well, not only this dialogue, but every dialogue that has been,
Yeah.
prior to ours,
Yeah.
is that
It's not about consciousness. It's not about knowledge. It's not about willpower.
and I didn't make a decision. It made me, I guess, so to speak.
Yep. Somehow that's why we need an effective relationship with power.
Yeah, and I know that's a yesterday at the meeting, someone was talking about food and you said something about you're in this I don't know how you said it, but you basically said you're in it for yourself, you meditate to feel better, you think, anyways, and I thought, well, maybe that's me, maybe I am just,
Many people think this is a self-help program, or this is about human development, and is absolutely the furthest thing from it.
Yeah, I do
There's
think
nothing that we can do to help ourselves. That's the whole point of this dialogue and the ones we've had up till now.
Thank you.
No, really, thank you for that. You put some real specifics to the story, and people can relate to that, hopefully, in their own addiction.
And my addiction is alcohol, but it's really now going to sugar, cakes, food. I was trying to equate food with alcohol.
Good, excellent, yeah.
And I came away with I understand it in my head, but it doesn't work in my real life.
Well, let me ask a couple questions. Are you in a 12-step program for food addiction?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so this is a recent awareness that you might have some type of sugar or food problem?
Yes.
All right. Have you had any success, a day or two or three, of managing it the way you think you ought to?
Like 2 or 3 days, and then I find something that I want to eat, and I eat it.
And what are you thinking?
Lie to myself.
Wait. What are you thinking just before you eat it, after you've had 2 or 3 days of success?
I tell myself a little bit won't hurt.
Exactly. That's it. Yeah. And once you found out that a little bit did hurt, then you were successful from then on out?
No.
Exactly. That's right. But you repeated the lie, didn't you?
Yes.
There you go. Exactly. We don't have to have any more conversation, quite frankly. That's it right there.
But how do I not tell myself the lie?
That's the right question. That is correct.
I don't have the answer.
Well, all right. And this process will provide the answer. I've been giving the answer regularly every time people conclude. What have I said today as the answer to this problem?
Let's see. What I think I heard was that I need a power greater than myself to help me with that. I needed a
not to help you. Sorry, not to help you.
Not to help me.
No, you're helpless and hopeless. You need a power to protect you.
Oh, that's to protect me.
It's hugely different.
Yeah, and I wrote it down.
Bill says it as clear as it can be on pages 84, 85. We are placed in a position of neutrality.
And let me just say, I want that because I have that with alcohol.
Exactly.
But I don't remember working this hard.
It's the most difficult, I think, for lots of reasons. The food addiction is the most difficult one to deal with and stay with. I'm convinced of that. Yeah.
So
By the
anyway,
very nature of it. Yeah. Yeah.
but all the people that have come before me on today,
Yeah.
they have helped me at least understand that the problem is bigger than me willing it.
Well, and that's why I'm spending the time, because it's so important not to just hear the story from each individual, but to get underneath the story, to hear the thinking and the feelings and the lie and the deceit and the dishonesty that goes with it. And we don't even know it's happening.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thanks very
Thank
much.
you.
Coming from the Al-Anon perspective, a lot of problems with control, but also delving into complex fantasies as an escape mechanism. Actually wrote down 2 different experiences with abstinence, one pre-program, one in program.
Talk to me about the one in program.
All right, yeah, let's do that one. 6 days of abstinence.
But what is it? How do you define abstinence?
Not indulging in any fantasies, not indulging in leaving my sphere to try to control and manipulate a situation to get an outcome that I want.
All right. That's, yeah.
A phone call occurs. Phone call from my mother. And it gives me information that it's a concern of mine, and then I'm caught in a situation of legally there's stipulation that I cannot act on this. Myself jumping in and trying to contact my attorney and go down that road would lead to additional more phone calls, more emails.
So what's the trigger event?
The trigger event is being completely out, having no control over a situation that I want to control. I am terrified about the welfare of my children. I'm terrified how this reflects on me, the shame of the situation I'm in. It's the spiral.
But you have 6 days of freedom.
Correct.
And you get the phone call.
Mm-hmm.
And what is your thoughts and your feelings and your awareness about your 6 days of freedom and your commitment to abstinence and to not, I mean, because everything else is
story.
Interesting, but it's just story and as you say, complexity. So I'm trying to zero in on the comparable sort of substance point of loss of control.
Like so many others have shared tonight, I can feel myself giving up my serenity. It is leaving me, like I can see it, bye-bye. Because my sole focus is I have to make this feeling stop. I have to make this feeling go away. This complete lack of control is going to eat me.
Had you ever had that awareness of having to have that control feeling in previous times of abstinence and relapse?
Not since coming into program. Prior to program, it was always just, I'm doing what I want. I'm in control of this thing. I am me. I'm Oz. Listen to me. But Now in program, I'm aware of these triggers. I'm aware of.
Well, but you said, how long had you been in program when you have 6 days of abstinence?
Oh, what are we at? Like 4 months?
Okay, so you had relapses in that 4 months.
Well, of course.
But you said, yeah, but you said you didn't have any experience with relapse in the same way of loss of control, so it must be different then.
Forgive me, I meant prior to coming into the program. With every relapse since being in program, since becoming serious about it, I can notice when I am slipping away from my serenity.
Did you notice here in this particular event that you're describing that you were slipping away from serenity?
Yes.
And so you noticed it. Then what?
I had to
make any difference?
halt.
Did it make any difference?
The slightest of difference, enough that I could remember to, okay, halt, hold on a second, pause. Who do I reach? Is there someone I can reach out to in program to actually discuss?
Did you pause?
I actually did. And I had to think about it for a second.
All right. So but you're using this example as an example of relapse, and I don't hear the relapse yet.
Because then I ignored everything that I was supposed to do and sent the email the following day.
Also, it took some time. It wasn't on the phone call. It wasn't after the phone call. It took some time for it to build a head of steam.
I took some time before I was like, you know what, I'm in charge of this. Boop, and sent the email. I might have typed it that first day, but I gave it a nice 12 to 18 hours to marinate.
And in the time between the phone call and writing the email, I'm assuming the email is the evidence of a relapse. Between the time of the phone call and the email, did you do any prayer?
Yes.
Did you call a sponsor and talk about it?
Yep.
And yet you relapsed anyway.
Yeah.
All right. So what's wrong with you?
It's funny. I've been making a hash mark every time you say that to someone. If it was a drinking game, I'd be on the floor. And I appreciate it. That's the best part. What's wrong with me is that I need to beef up my spiritual defense.
Can you?
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, well,
that's what we're all here for.
Okay, yeah, it was kind of a trick question, and I don't normally do that. Yeah, and that's when we do this work. Somehow we do connect effectively with a power other than ourselves, not because we do the work, but there's some type of a precondition, and that's the only word I can use. Kind of lame, but there's a precondition that sets us up for the receipt of grace. Although grace is given without the preconditions, I'm very confident of that. So yeah, that's exactly it. So with all of the little bit of consciousness and a little bit of prayer and a little bit of sponsor talk, and you lost it.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole point. If we're not, page 43, there'll come a time and a place where we have no effective mental defense. Couldn't be any clearer. And yet it takes this kind of dialogue for people to kind of like get it existentially, experientially. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wanted to relate the experience of the last time I drank in Alcoholics Anonymous. I had 57 days of sobriety, and I had been given the instruction. One of the instructions was to read the doctor's opinion every day. And I had no plans of drinking this one day when I went back to my hometown at all. And I had a phobia of drinking and absolutely had mangled my youthful life at that point horribly. And I was again absolutely phobic. I was invited by a friend to just go to a very small social gathering, which I didn't think there would be alcohol at. As we were invited in the door, it turned out people were drinking, and someone offered me a beer right off the outset. And at that point, as this is happening, I panicked and I had no desire to drink, and so much so that thoughts were racing through my mind of how I could avoid or escape the situation. I thought of feigning complete insanity, running down the street screaming, whatever I had to do. Literally, I was thinking of what I could do to get out of it. And then my mind shut off. And I don't remember agreeing to take the beer or even reaching out for it or anything. I lost track of about 20 seconds completely.
Yeah.
And when I came to, so to speak, there were bubbles rising from the carbonation of the beer in my stomach. Mm-hmm. And I didn't remember drinking. I didn't decide to turn. I didn't give up. I didn't remember saying no and having it go down. Yeah. There was literally that blank spot.
Yeah. 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 That's a very dramatic. The man who took me through the steps the first time had that experience at 16 years of sobriety. He had the very same experience. I won't go through the detail, but it was exactly that strange mental blank spot that Fred talks about. Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing also I think is pertinent, again, I had literally read the doctor's opinion as sponsor's direction every morning, subsequently 57 times in a row up to that point.
Yeah. Well, the doctor's opinion is relevant after you take the drink. It's not relevant before you take the drink.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah.
So we're reading the wrong material.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyhow,
but that's not the reason. No. I think it's a very concrete example of, again, I guess the word is so powerful, we'll continue using it, being hijacked. Yep. Yeah. No thought at all, with 57 days and this phobia and this consciousness and this resolution, and you don't even remember ordering, let alone drinking it. Yep.
Exactly. And even right after I was done, and I knew I was done, and it was like I realized I was hijacked and there's nothing I could do even knowing. But of course that was the allergy. But anyhow, just wanted to share that.
I appreciate it.
I had 11 years of sobriety, and I'm an alcoholic. And what happened for me, well, I wasn't thinking about anything. I was in the supermarket on a Saturday morning, and I was in line, and I noticed for the first time that in the supermarket, they had all the alcohol at the front door. And I thought to myself, why would they have the alcohol at the front door? Anybody could get that and just walk out the door. And as I thought that thought, I seen my favorite color, which was magenta. And all that brown liquor I seen magenta. And I left my basket full of food in line, walked over there, and I turned the bottle around and it said passion. And my thought, I said I needed some passion. Then I thought, I'm not no alcoholic. I got 11 years of sobriety. In the book, it said some of us may not be one. And I took the whole 4-pack, went back to the line, and set the pack up. Yeah. Passion, and went straight on as if I never thought of the madness that happened 11 years before I relapsed.
Yeah,
that's what happened.
No, I mean, it's a very colorful story, no pun intended. Of course, the pun is intended with the magenta. Yeah, you were hijacked by the color, and that was the trigger that set up the whole process of the relapse. That's a very concrete story also. Thanks so much.
And I stopped drinking for, I think it was about 6 to 8 weeks. And then I was going to a bar and hanging out with some lower companions. I never really went to bars during my drinking days.
You had the intention of not drinking.
Of not drinking.
At that point, and you went to the bar to be with your friends.
Exactly.
All right.
And it was my birthday at one point.
All right.
And the bartender bought me a drink.
Of course.
And I said, no, I'm not drinking.
There you go.
And then I said, maybe I can control this because I haven't been drinking. And then my friend bought me a drink and I had 2 drinks and I went home.
Well, no, no. The story's over. The story's over.
It's not.
No, the story is over. You had 8 weeks of not drinking and intention of not drinking, but you went to the bar and you said no at first. And then, well, it's your birthday and they bought you a drink and, well, it won't hurt me this time is what you said. That's it right there. There's nothing else to say.
Thank you, Herb.
You bet. Slaw, okay.
Addiction to a person.
And what's your commitment? Describe what abstinence means to you in your program.
Not getting involved with my qualifier at all.
Okay, all right. That and you're in slaw. And how much abstinent time had you had?
Well,
no, answer the question. I don't want a story. Answer the question. How much time in slaw did you have of abstinence?
About only a few weeks.
Oh, wait a minute. I had a few weeks of freedom. That's great. Don't diminish it. I had a few weeks of freedom in slaw from this compulsion and this behavior that was a source of my suffering. Okay, I had a few weeks. What's the occasion of relapse?
Okay. I receive a letter from him and I hyperventilate. I think I'm going to be in so much pain. I ring up a girlfriend. She said, why don't you write to him?
What is your definition of a relapse? I want to know.
Writing back.
Okay, all right. You got several weeks of freedom. And what was your thinking before you began writing?
I'm going to stop this. I'm going to let him know that what he's doing is wrong.
Okay, so your thinking is that you're going to teach him something. Had you ever had that kind of thought before that led to a relapse?
Oh, yes, I try and change.
So did any of that information concerning your history of relapse come to you at that point?
No, none.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What you're saying, though, is you repeated the same insane behavior that you had stopped consciously, and you started again without much resistance at all.
No. And I was given strict instructions by my cousin,
How did that work? No. How did all that strictness and past information and suffering and decision and intention work for you?
It didn't work.
Well, that's the point. That's the point.
But I'm in so much anxiety that he's going to retaliate.
But wait. I don't want the story. It's none of our business. Okay. It's your problem. Don't make it our problem. It's your problem. Do you call and deal with your sponsor? All right. That's what you do. You call your sponsor and get some direction.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you. I'm having to be a bit of a hard ass tonight, but I got to keep you guys channeled. Thank you. Okay. The stories are dramatic. I understand that, but this is not the place for it.
The way I would feel, I was abstinent for 6 months, and I noticed what happened was I started feeling lonely because I had let go of the friends that were participating, even though I was hanging around them, and it didn't faze me whatsoever. I didn't feel the urge. And then
I missed part of it. How long were you abstinent?
6 months.
6 months. Good. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. And I had been around people that were smoking weed and things. And I was like, oh, wow, look, I don't feel like doing it. But I kept hanging around these people.
All right.
So then I said, well, I've done it 6 months. And here comes the illogical thinking. I could do it one time. I'm feeling lonely. I stayed away you know, I decided to stay away. Let me just pop by there.
Yep.
And then, oh, let me just get a little in case I want it later. You know, I'm not going to do it just in case I won't have to think about it.
I get it. Yeah.
But, you know, one thing I want to say real quickly that you mentioned that I find very interesting is during this process, the whole thing I've learned up to this point, I was looking into my relationship with my higher power and how I had no longer had one. And it was like I was trying to do it by my own force still.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, excuse me, inside I said, I give up. I surrender. I can't do this anymore. And I started the prayer and the inspirational readings. And oh, you know what really helped? The reflections kept going through my mind of self. Where's your life not working? What efforts are you taking? Do you want to change? And are you really making changes? And then I realized, no, I'm not. I'm lying to myself. And that's when I started the meditation and prayer, and it has made a world of difference already. So I just wanted to share that.
Oh, it's great. That's exactly the journey. That's right. We have to have an experience of having our head kicked in before we implode and ask for help, and then do the things that are necessary to keep us connected to help. That's exactly right.
You know, when I shared what I shared about being, you know, entirely powerless, you know, this currently being focused on food, but how it is that, you know, fucking the disease sneaks up on us, and maybe it doesn't sneak up on all of us, but
no, it does. It sneaks up on all of us. I think that's actually a very good description. Yeah. It's like a stealth thing.
It is cunning, baffling, and powerful.
Yeah.
And when I acknowledge that I'm powerless over alcohol, you know, I thought it was just really, I'm powerless, my life is unmanageable, and it had had to do with alcohol. But I knew over time, long-term sobriety, that like my thinking is different. I am different from other people.
Yep.
And I'm bodily and mentally different based on how I physically react to life, how I emotionally react to life. And you know, there are areas where that, you know, it's not as bad, but like I was really sort of shocked that like it came up with food and like any other like weird little compulsive behaviors.
Yeah.
But something you said to me last night, and I don't mean this as like whatever, when I was telling you about the disassociation and you know, having a hard time tracking and you know, the ADD and you know,
I thought it was a very powerful dialogue that we had last night, but go ahead.
I did too. You said though, yes, we know the tragic story, or yes, the tragedy of something about tragic life. I'm curious that if that's what came across to you, like
I don't remember, but I try to help people get out of the storytelling to get to the point of the experience of this repetitive thought or feeling that we don't see as a repetitive thought or feeling. So yeah, I certainly didn't mean to dismiss it or negate it, if that's what you were feeling. Yeah.
You know, I got to say that like, I don't always want to be bodily and mentally different from other people. And I will fight that with other subtle things and it is such a disservice to the integrity of a relationship with God and sobriety. And
Bill saw it. I'm going to emphasize it now because of your comments. It makes it totally real experientially. On page 30, he says, we learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we are addicts, This is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we are like other people or presently maybe has to be smashed.
It has to be smashed because it fucking is creepy as shit and it comes up in all these different areas.
We so don't want to be different.
I so don't want to be different still. And I am.
Yep.
Thank you, Herb.
That's the frosting on the cake. I don't mean to trigger any food.
No, that's okay. Thank you.
I wanted to ask a question if I could, because I had this I remembered today why I joined why I accepted this invitation, if you will, and I was coming up on a anniversary and I was like, oh my God, like what do I want from my sobriety? What do I want from my journey? And I was like, well, I'm about to hit 3 years. If I can make it like another 23 and some change hours, so I'd better finish my step work and I'd better, all the things, right? The shoulds and the whatever. And I'm having this experience currently where it is very similar to my 4th step. I feel like the steps weren't going to work for me. So it was just a delay, but not on purpose. And if anyone told me I was delaying, I would get really pissed because I wasn't delaying.
But how is this now connected to what we're talking about in terms of the obsession and the delusion and the mind problem?
So, not sure, and feel free to slash me down because I've been getting it all day and I'm strong enough to handle it. But I guess the question is more of like a check-in and is it I don't know, like just keep coming or like keep doing the things.
What's your real question?
Yeah, I'm concerned that it's not going to work for me, Herb. I
Okay.
feel like it's not going to work for me.
All right. It may not.
Oh,
You'd be the only one in 27 years that it's not worked for, in my experience.
you.
But it may not. You may be quite unique. But why don't we hang out for a while and see what happens?
I've tried that. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Stay with us. Yeah, because quite frankly, that's a thought that many may have had sometime even today, let alone on this journey, or may have. That I hear what everybody's saying, and I hear what Herb's saying, and I love his enthusiasm, but it's not going to work for me. It has never failed once for the people who finish the work.
Okay.
In my experience, and I've been doing the workshops for 25 years.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. That's not tens, that's not hundreds, that's thousands of people. Yep.
And I believe you, which is
well, especially with I believe the diligence with which you apply yourself, the thoughtfulness with which you apply yourself, you're going to have a huge experience. I don't know when it is, and you're going to have more than one. All right.
Well, I'm preparing to be surprised. So
Good.
yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good. A little pep talk for everybody.
Appreciate it.
That's
You're
great.
welcome, everybody.
Let's pray the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Wisdom, the ability to see around corners. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you next week. Should be really powerful for you as we begin getting into unmanageability. Thanks so much.